Hey guys, welcome to SJU. The Oscars, are they different? How are they different? Let's find out. I'm Joe, I'm your host, and I got a Danielle with me.
I'm afraid of change.
Danielle's been freaking out all morning because of all the intense changes about the Oscars. Spencer,
I've got Oscar fever or coronavirus. We'll see.
One of the two.
By the end of this show, we'll know which one.
Both caused severe lung damage and could have been avoided by wearing a mask. There's been a lot of changes for the Oscars due to all the COVID stuff. They announced a formal date change for the ceremony itself today. But in addition to that, there's been a lot of sort of structural changes within the Oscars, the number of Best Pictures, eligibility nominations, leadership in their boards, all that stuff. We're going to get into a little bit of it, break down the stuff that we feel like matters to you, the Oscar viewers at home, talk a little bit about how we feel about it, and stick around. We're going to answer your fan questions. Okay. Let me awkwardly shift to my script because I'm not as good at this as Roth is. So here's a bunch of stuff you need to know about the Oscars and their changes. Awards eligibility has been expanded. So it's now January 1st, 2020 to February 28th, 2021. So they've expanded out to sort of accommodate a sort of shifting and constantly changing movie landscape. The shortlist announcement will be Tuesday, February 9th, 2021, and nominations will be announced in March on March 15th. And then Oscar Sunday will be April 25th, 2021. And then the Academy Museum's opening April 30th.
Oh, thank God.
I know I'll be there. I love making a day of the Wax Museum, Ripley's Believe It or Not, and the Academy Museum. Don't you, Danielle?
It's my favorite thing to do with my mom.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. So they've also jumped back into some inclusion initiatives, which honestly I thought they said they did already. Frankly, they made a statement. Let me read the statement to you guys. I'll get through all the info and then we can mix it up. Today, the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences announced the next phase of its equity and inclusion initiative, Academy Aperture 2025, which is a funny name. This phased initiative will further the Academy's ongoing efforts to advance inclusion in the entertainment industry and increase representation within its membership and the greater film community. The first phase of the initiative outlines specific goals for the Oscars and Academy governance, membership, and workplace culture. They've started to make some changes. They're implementing a quarterly viewing process through the Academy Screening Room, the streaming site for Academy members, so that it's possible for members to view films released year-round, so that Academy members aren't just limited to whatever month they start sending DVDs to your door. They've also passed a resolution to amend bylaws to enact maximum governor term limits so that, old guard starts to filter out, new guard starts to filter in. New governors, doing a Scooby-Doo impression today, sorry. New governors were elected to the Board of Governors, including Ava DuVernay, who is representing the governor's branch. What is an Academy governor, you ask? Great question. The Board of Governors sets the Academy's strategic vision. They preserve the organization's financial health and assures the fulfillment of its mission. So, like, if you ever had a dad that was in the Rotary Club, it's like that, I think.
What's the Rotary Club?
It's like for like businesses in your community to do community stuff.
Yeah, a lot of names on baseball jerseys or soccer jerseys. A lot of hosting of school pizza and or ice cream socials, things like that.
My outlook on positions of honor and leadership were changed entirely when my dad was made president of his Rotary Club. And when I was a kid, I was like, that sounds amazing. And I was like, yeah, congratulations. That's amazing. That must mean people think so much of you. And he goes, yeah, they think a lot of my free time. And then he sipped his martini like a boss. Lots of changes to the Academy. Another big one new rules for streaming movies. So they will be allowing some movies released on streaming platforms and via digital release to qualify for the 2021 Oscars because of COVID. The Board of Governors have decided that a movie which winds up on a streaming service must have had a previously planned theatrical release. The language around that is a little squirrely. You know, there's no real rules, at least that have been announced yet, that say, you know, Netflix could be like, oh yeah, we were definitely planning on releasing To All the Boys I've Ever Loved Before 2 into theaters. Look at this note that I passed someone that says we were going to do it. So the Academy is staying firm on theatrical release requirements. The Academy firmly believes there is no greater way to experience the magic of movies than to see them in a theater, Academy President David Rubin and CEO Don Hudson said in a press statement. Their commitment to that is unchanged and unwavering. So there we are. All the changes. Let's discuss them. First of all, I want to get into this weird, the streaming service bit. Yeah. I kind of thought that this would be the thing that would break the Academy of sort of the rigid screening guidelines. It's got to make a theatrical run. They're giving it a big maybe, like yeah, but only for this year, and only if you were gonna do a theatrical and you had to deign to lower yourself to stream. What do you guys think about this?
Oh yeah, we talked about it a little bit before stream. I hope that they're grandfathering in some of these. And it's also, okay, if the eligibility period, we still have so many months of it. Obviously, movies that if you were releasing, you might have had like kind of a nebulous, we plan on maybe releasing it in theaters. But how do you prove, well, we were definitely releasing this thing in theaters? I don't know. I don't think that that's a fair way to do it. I think that everyone before this announcement was made that never made an official announcement that it was going to be in a theater should be grandfathered in, because how were you supposed to know? Especially if, I don't know. Because a lot of these, if they were streaming, especially if they were already planning on being streaming, the rules for that are, you do it for 2 weeks. That's not going to be a big commercial announcement. That's going to be an email. It's going to be really small run. I think it's really short-minded right now to make people have to paper chase emails that say, well, we definitely were planning on bringing this. We definitely were planning on bringing this to theaters, and now that we're not. Mm-hmm. Because there's still a voting process. It's not as though it just means that now everybody is going in. I can't make a movie tomorrow about how my floor is lopsided, which is a documentary that I should start, but I can't do that and make it and put it up and be like, well, now it has to be nominated for an Oscar. There's still a process. So I just think that right now, I know that the Academy is all about rules. That is their thing, because that's what helps. That's what they think keeps the prestige, is if they are very tight and rulesy about this. But I think that this is definitely one of those. Maybe we can be more lax than we normally would. So I'm also interested to see, because Lord knows they announced some things, like they announced that popular vote Oscar, and then within 2 weeks they were like, just kidding. So this is all in flux. Yeah, this is all in flux. We'll see what happens. But
yeah, there's definitely some local homeowners association energy.
Yeah. Your fence can only be this high, and you have to have already said you were going to be putting this in a theater.
Wacky mailbox? We don't think so. Spencer, how's the mailbox requirements from the Academy looking to you?
Thrilling, Joe. I love the minutia of the Oscars and the Academy more than anything. Can we just push a year? Can we just not do the Oscars if they're so concerned? Because the movies that were legitimately going to these streaming movies that were going to come out in theaters, what are there, 4 of them? Is it just going to be 4 movies going up against each other in Trolls World Tour?
Which definitely has, I guess, best song on a lock. Well, then here's the big question then that we can talk about. Because again, I agree with you. The minutia of the ins and outs of the Academy and what your lawn can look like and how many trees you can have, I don't care. But here's my big question to you guys. Does this check out, or does it kind of feel like BS? Is the Academy are the Oscars supposed to reflect, for better or worse, a year in film? And that means, okay, streaming is in then, because that's how people were able to watch movies. That's Da 5 Bloods deserves, to be eligible for Oscars. Or does this feel like they're kind of glad handing to the studios a little bit to kind of make sure that the things that they were going to try to get in for Oscars this year definitely get in?
I mean, I was half joking, but I think that if to them the film means things that were exhibited in theaters, what they say, like that's the greatest way to see a film,
yes.
Which I think is sort of misguided. Like, yeah, I love the theatrical experience, but I think that like it's up to the filmmaker how they want it to be perceived. Right. And if they know they're making a movie for streaming, like they'll make a movie that fits best to be streamed in your home. All that's to say that if they're just trying to capture the year in theatrical film, like don't do the Oscars then, because you got 2 months worth. Just seriously, like do it a year later, or as I've always advocated for, do it 5 to 10 years later, so you have some time to look back and like be like, what was I thinking? That La La Land is not that.
Every 5-year Oscars.
Yeah, it just using my own bathroom at home with no one else there is the most ideal way to do it. But if I have to use a public bathroom, like the job is still getting done, right? So I just don't.
Wait, what's that analogy?
Well, just the idea that yes, obviously there is an optimal way to see movies, but that doesn't necessarily. Mean that makes or breaks a bad movie. I don't have a bad poo because I did it at whether I did it at a movie theater or if I did it at a restaurant.
Yeah, like, but it's not ideal. It's not the greatest way.
Yeah. But I don't think that should be the ultimate judge of the quality of a movie, is whether or not you got to see it. Because for some people, only being able to see it in a theater where you can see it in 35 millimeters is the optimal way to see it. Does that now become the standard? It's so subjective.
I don't like the illusion, to continue your metaphor, that every AMC has a really fancy Japanese toilet that plays music and washes your butt.
Has a bidet.
Yeah. I think, my thought was like, we talk a lot on here about how the Oscars ignore genre pictures and stuff like that, and exchange and only look at the Green Books and the La La Lands and the things that kind of seem like they were made in the Oscar factory. In the chat, John McCormick says, too bad Hereditary didn't come out this year. Toni Collette might have actually gotten a nomination. And I think that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, if this is the year that, because of circumstances, all of a sudden people are seeing more genre films, people are looking at lower budget stuff that they might not have seen otherwise, on streaming, then that should be the Oscars. Like, this should be the year that Elizabeth Moss is definitely nominated for The Invisible Man.
And if it's not good, it's still not going to get in. Like, that's I understand there might be more complications because then you might be expected to see more movies, but it's not like the floodgates suddenly open and everything becomes nominated. You can nominate for, or will be able to be in there. Yeah. There's still going to be a vetting process.
Yeah. Loose Change 7 isn't going to get like a doc nomination just because it's not uploaded to Prime this year. Yeah.
And especially because with Prime, in a lot of ways, just anyone can upload stuff. There's no real vetting process on that. But yeah, so that I guess for me, it just seems like more unnecessary gatekeeping. And they really love their gates at the Oscars, and I get it. It gives a lot of people something to do, and it makes a lot of people feel very important. But I gotta say, it's especially if you're ever going to loosen those and have an opportunity to give a greater opportunity for films that, for many reasons, we're never going to be able to go into theaters, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are of lower quality than something that made it into a theater as terms of writing and filmmaking goes. This should have been it, and it's kind of a bummer. But again, we'll see. It's all in flux right now.
Spencer, are you in support of the people or the bourgeoisie filmmakers?
Oh, just in general?
Just in general.
Well, look, I'm in favor of the people, always power to the people. And yet, I do think that the Oscars role is not to give a trophy to the biggest comic book movie of the year or like the coolest monster movie and stuff like that. Like, it is a prestige event and is there to reward the films because they don't get rewarded at the box office and nobody does care about them except the Oscars. It's all they got. If you want to watch, a sad priest, come to terms with his gay step cousin in Wales, this is where else are you going to go? But the Academy Awards.
And I
movie.
do.
You guys should check it out.
It's a really solid Green Book sequel.
I'm just saying, like, I love. I'm obviously like. I think that the place where popular movies are rewarded and recognized is the box office and like places like Screen Junkies and like the movie poop and like every schmuck with a website. Like that's where they get recognition. The Oscars is for a certain type of filmmaking, and I think that's fine as long as you the viewer knows that like that's the game is to select the upper crust, the elite, the presumed elite, and the films that would not go for a mass market appeal, because they were never trying in the first place. Like that's what the Oscars are for.
Well,
it's not the MTV Movie Awards.
Yeah, well, I mean.
Best kiss, best kiss, best kiss. Also, why am I not writing for the movie poop? That's the most important question.
Right?
The now defunct movie poop.
Rest in peace, movie poop.
Canceled too soon.
Yeah, I do think Spencer, sort of with that very specific film that the Oscars are sort of there to promote. I agree with Almos Ice 210 in chat says the added 2 months will allow all the Oscar baiting movies to be released in January and February. So I agree with that. We're going to get a very hoity-toity start to the new year. I'm going to pause this for a second. Just say thank you for watching, liking, subscribing. We really, really do appreciate it. Hope you guys are enjoying the show. Keep letting me know what you're thinking in the comments and in the chat, and I'll get into them, and we'll chat about them a little bit. Sorry, scrolling back up in my script. I'm not good at this. We've got a lot of links in the description for you guys to check out. A lot of links on how to get involved in Black Lives Matter. Please make sure you check that stuff out. Get involved. Are the big two keywords for making any of this better. Please get involved. We beg you. We've got another Hey Fandom coming up. If you haven't been watching these, they're awesome. The Rob Paulson one was legit fantastic. Danielle, great job.
Thank you.
Although no shade to you, I feel like you could have just said, hi, Rob.
Yeah, there's literally, I did nothing. That was all Rob, which is what makes one of the great ones. Like, you didn't come there to see me. You can see me 3 times a week. You came there to watch Yakko say some stuff, and he said some stuff, and he did some as Yakko. It was fantastic.
Yes. If this is the place, if you want a story you've never heard before about 2 voice actor friends doing Pinky and the Brain in a room where everyone's doing chemo and like, yeah, it was a great episode. I was just kind of like sobbing through the whole thing. It was really good. This week's also going to be really cool. Thursday, right after SJU, we've got a link in the description. We got Jason Blum coming in. It's gonna be good.
That's so good.
Really, really, really good. You guys check that one out. That's going to be huge and awesome and just genre-y good. So please make sure you check that out. Plus Friday, we've been doing these look backs on movies and doing reviews for stuff that we never really got to review. Last week, we actually had 2 really interesting parallel conversations about Batman Forever and Batman Begins. And I really think you should watch them both at the same time because we're having literally a parallel conversation about Batman's purpose, beating up poor people versus just economic justice as Bruce Wayne, and how 2 different filmmakers approach them, which I thought was fascinating. So please make sure you check those out. This week, we're going to Pandora. I'm very excited. Finally.
Tree of Life, baby.
Tree of Life. We're going to the Tree of Life. We're going to touch tails.
Touch them tails.
Touch those tails together. It's going to be good. So please make sure you check it out. And then, as always, we've got links in the description for Direct Relief. They are coordinating with public health authorities, nonprofit orgs, and businesses in the U.S., China, and globally to provide PPE to medical organizations and personnel that need it in the frontline fight against COVID-19. You can help them out by donating. You can help them out by sharing those links, and you can help them out by wearing a mask. Please,
wear a mask.
Especially if you're going to see Tenet in July. Please wear a mask when you go. All right. All that said, let's get back into the Oscar conversation a little bit, because we were sort of having this conversation about like Spencer's talking about like what the Oscars are actually for and the specific type of movie that they're for. Danielle's sort of talking about the sort of gatekeeper feel of them. Is there, trying to figure out how to approach this question, is there a point to like the changes, the diversity changes and stuff that the Academy is making with the Board of Governors and stuff like that, when it seems like the point of the Oscars is to hit that certain level of films? Like, is there a chicken and egg thing where it's like, oh, well, the diversity issue at the Oscars won't be solved until that level of films that it exists to promote are more diverse and inclusive?
Yeah, I do think it's a chicken and egg thing, because I think that if you have more people who are paying attention to different kinds of films and advocating for different kinds of films, there is no bigger advocate than an Oscar nomination. There simply is not one. Other than, again, like if you have, Captain America in it, that's pretty big, but there is none. And so it does become chicken and egg, because there are already great films being made by great filmmakers and creators that don't get noticed as much. And if we start to see particularly, aside from more diverse, younger people who are, we had this conversation when this first came up, like, a couple of years ago. A lot of people who were part of the process were people who hadn't been involved in making movies in like 50 years, but they were still part of the voting folks. And I think that it is important that you have people who very much have their finger on the pulse of what is currently happening in film, because if nothing else, I do think that Oscars are, or should be, a reflection of what happened in film that year. Like when we look back, and that's, to Spencer's point, like I do think it would be really interesting to have something where you have a 5 or 10 year back and you're like, crash. But it is, that is what it is. It is what was happening in film that year. And that's why sometimes you look at them and you go, wow, what a packed year of stuff. And then sometimes you go and you look, that thing won. But it is definitely, you have to have people who are paying more attention to films that would not get attention put on them, because people have historically lumped them in as something that is not valid. And the more that you have people showing that these kinds of films have value and that people are willing to look at them and support them, the more of those that you are going to see get actual producing, like money and resources, so that these movies can be made and they don't have to be shot on your iPhone. Which, nothing wrong with that. There's been great movies. Tangerine was a great movie. It was shot on someone's iPhone, but you don't start getting that money and support until you can prove that there is an audience that will look for that. And even if that is like a prestige audience, you have to prove that that is out there. And so, yeah, it does become chicken and egg, because right now there are plenty of people who are doing that work, but there are also plenty of people who are shut out from being able to create those things because they simply cannot get their stuff produced. Money.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Academy is doing all that it can do as the Academy, which is kind of like the tail end of the big slurm slug of the music industry, or movie industry, where like the movies have already been plooped out and like they can say that one's good. You would hope for a more holistic solution would be to not just diversify and provide more resources at the end of the process, but at the beginning, like getting started in the movie industry, like you need to be able to either like work for minimum wage, like as an assistant, or for free as an intern.
Yep.
Or go to film school, which like puts you massively in debt. So like that shuts out so many people right off the bat. And if you can do that, like get people in the pipeline earlier, then they become executives, then they can greenlight movies that are more interesting than those movies can get made, and yada, yada, yada. But, the Academy is kind of hamstrung just, I think, by the fact that they are a post-production process where these movies have already been made. It's too late to do anything about what movies got made that year. But they can do what they can as far as giving recognition to that. But
go ahead.
What are you saying, Joe?
No, I just really like the slug comparison. I mean, they really are, they're at the butt. Like everything.
Yeah, they're at the butt. The Academies are at the butt.
We gotta get to the mouth. All roads about the Academy talk today end at the butt, and I'm very
let's put more of our I think our putting more of our funding and our attention and our thinking at the mouth of the slug would be more helpful, and even the middle, even the
more
guts.
Mouth stuff, less butt stuff. That's what we were advocating on SJU today.
Well, because you look at I think that's the important way to frame the conversation, Spencer. I think you're exactly right, because you can't look at you can't have a conversation about like the permanent now increase to 10 nominations, because originally it was a sliding scale where it was like 6, and then I don't know, maybe there's a couple more, we'll throw them in. Now it's the permanent 10. The intention being to provide, an increased look at diversity and include, in addition to the ones where the studio's like, this movie's going in, a couple others, right? Which suck. I hate that. I think it sucks. I think you could still do 6 and still do the work. Just, look, Moonlight's better than Green Book or Crash or whatever. Crash doesn't make it, just because a studio did it and they're like, this is our Oscar movie, Academy. Like, because I feel like that happens a lot, over.
No, I don't think that I don't think the widening to 10 thing is like a diversity ploy or anything. I think that is like a attempt to get people to tune in because they're like, oh, I've seen some of the movies that are up for Best Picture.
True.
Right. And I do think a lot of that, where it does come to like, oh, well, this is the thing the studio is pushing. Again, that's also money, which. And it's great that they're expanding it where they're like, hey, like we're giving you more chances to see these movies instead of just sending you all of these DVDs 3 weeks before you guys are supposed to vote. But there are also studios who are sending things. They are sending you stuff and creating opportunities for you to be able to do that stuff. They're like actively lobbying for their movies to be picked and included. And I mean, is that fair? Is that right? Everyone has the chance to do that. They're not saying that you can't, but money says that you can't. And there's no super PAC for I want people to watch Waves more. I wish there was. I would have donated to the Let's Get Waves an Oscar nomination super PAC, but there simply is not. Yeah. So because of that, it's it all comes down to what gets funded and what doesn't. And they're not to talk about improv. I know, guys, gross, but a lot of things that are happening currently when it comes to these big improv studios, one thing that they are starting to address is the fact that, like, yeah, not everybody can come in and work for free. Not everybody can afford to pay, $600, $700 for classes. And I know for some people, I know that does seem like that's a privileged thing to say, oh, well, I want to do this thing so bad that I should be able to do it and not pay $700. And it's like, yeah, sure, I know that it sounds like Hollywood problems, but as long as we keep doing that means that none of this stuff changes. And we all know that the things that happen in our media do wind up reflecting, like, it's important to be able to see different kinds of voices. If not only because it inspires more people to make more and it changes perspective on the world, it's also, man, it's like super boring if we don't, it's like real boring.
And for folks that sort of aren't aware of that, just like sort of the Academy we're talking about right now, a lot of the like comedy training centers and stuff where you take classes, the pipelines to getting work and jobs.
Getting on SNL specifically, which is another pipeline to getting more work.
They're doing some mouth work right now as well, basically. But I agree with both of you. I think you do the mouth work, and I think Waves gets nominated regardless of how many nominations you allow in the Best Picture list. Spencer, what other parts of the slug need to be fixed?
Tip to tail, Joe. Tip to tail. No, I don't know. I just I think this is the case in a lot of the discussions going on today. Is like these are systemic and institutionalized issues, and you're not going to be able to just put some window dressing on the end result. You gotta kind of look at the whole thing at the same time and not ignore that.
I guess my only other sort of thought I've been kicking around about this, and then we'll move on to some fan questions because we have salted this slug. You got to wonder, as the studios are bought up more and more by communication internet companies and communication companies and start leaning more towards streaming, at what point are the studios, from just because now they've been absorbed by streaming services that would probably prefer just a streaming movie, be able to be eligible without a theatrical run? At what point will the studios ever just sort of push for that requirement to go?
I think it's a generation gap, frankly. Yeah. Like, I think that you're just going to need to see Academy members and studio executives age out and retire, and people will come up who've grown up watching movies through streaming primarily. It's just, I mean, movie lovers are always going to exist, like theatrical experience lovers are always going to exist, and there will always be movie theaters. But the idea that if it doesn't come out in a theater, it doesn't exist, like, I just can't see that sticking around 20, 30 years from now. I just can't.
And that's when Quibi's really going to land, baby.
Quibi 2.
Quibi 2. And it'll only be 30 seconds. It'll be 30-second movies. It's going to be a lot of short picture noms, but it's going to be worth it. They're going to expand the category to 300.
Which I'm very, very into. Hey, you guys want to do some fan questions and then we'll get out of here?
Hell yeah.
All right.
Let's do it. Nan asked, what 2 movie characters would you want to be quarantined with? Ooh. I think this is a solid question. Well, first of all, I think we got to talk about like what are we looking for in a quarantine guest?
Quarantine partner.
I think Jean Favreau's character in Chef would be good.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You just like throw some stuff in a pot, and we know that it would be really good.
Yep.
Especially like during that 2 weeks. We were all buying noodles for no reason. We were just all stocking up on spaghetti and rice and beans. I think he could throw down on some spaghetti and rice and beans because he made what is a very simple but very elegant spaghetti dish, pasta olio, so good that Scarlett Johansson, not going to finish that sentence, but it was very good. it was very delightful.
No, I'm not going to say it either. I'm going to make some really gross Alfredo cream sauce jokes, and we're just not going to go there today.
We're not going to do that today.
We're going to hold until they happen. On the other hand, Favreau's Happy Hogan, I would not want to be quarantined with because I feel like he would just hover a lot and just comment on what you're doing.
Do you need anything? Do you need more toilet paper? Do you need anything?
You good?
Yeah. Oh, we're just going to leave that there? Okay, I'll just pick it up then. You know, like, I don't think that'd be good.
Keep trying to hang out with my hot aunt. No, I'm good.
No. He's trying to make her spaghetti. We don't have to necessarily limit this to Jon Favreau characters, though. That wasn't a request.
You sure?
Although Marissa Tomei's Aunt May, sure. Yeah,
sure.
She makes date bread. Again, another thing that we were doing during Horror. She could make really good different breads.
No,
remember the bread times, guys?
I do remember the bread times. Those were simpler times. Spencer, did anyone make bread over there?
We didn't do bread. No, I don't have time for that.
That's fair. You are taking care of a child. You don't have time to learn how to make sourdough.
Yeah, God, gross. I can't think of anyone I'd want to spend time with, so I'm just gonna go with maybe the toys from Toy Story. It's like they can come alive when I'm not around, and then when I walk in the room, I want them all to ragdoll.
Very solid answer. Vicky Walters asked, what would be, aside from Fandom or Screen Junkies, what's another TV or film YouTube channel that you would recommend binging during the Coronapocalypse?
Ooh.
Spread some love.
Yeah, I have a couple of. Hold on. Let me make sure I get these channel names right because I have a couple of great deep diving ones that I think that folks would really like.
I think most people know about Every Frame of Painting, but I absolutely love that one. I think it's a great channel. Also, there's I got to double check the name. There is an Instagram that's just about movie sound design. And it's really great. They take movie scenes and they go like in depth on all the sound design and they layer stuff out of the scene. So, you kind of like watch the full scene, and then you scroll over and then, certain stuff's taken out and they do the whole process. It's really, really cool. I'll tweet it later so that people know about it. What y'all got?
That is great.
They stopped doing Every Frame of Painting quit, unfortunately. They've been really... I'm so sad that they stopped doing those.
Same.
But if you haven't seen them, binge those. And then Lessons from the Screenplay, I feel like picked up where they left off, more of like from a story perspective than a filmmaking perspective. They are every essay is so good, so well done.
Lindsay Ellis was the one that I was going to say. Lindsay Ellis
great.
Does some great deep dives. One of my favorites is How Aladdin Changed Animation by Screwing Over Robin Williams. She's got a lot like that. They're all about 30 minutes long. Those are, again, really, really, really good. And if you are, I know they're talking about specifically about YouTube, but also if you ever want to check out a podcast, you must remember this is really great. As far as like getting into old school Hollywood and how that like reverberates through what's happening now.
Yeah. And we're just assuming everybody here knows about like Red Letter Media, Mr. Sunday Movies, the other.
You guys know about these classics. First Cut is really good. Check them out. And then
How It Should Have Ended. That's what I was trying to remember.
Yeah. Oh, those sweet those sweet he sheets are great. Oh shoot, I just lost the other one that I was trying to say. It's gone now. It's gone forever. If I remember it, I will repeat it. Let's see here. Toby G 1019 asked, "What are some movies that are improved by watching with a group?" You guys remember the olden times when we did things as groups?
I mean, Cats, obviously,
Cats,
is my first answer is Cats.
Yeah.
In fact, I do not recommend seeing that on your own. You like do it on a call or do it like live tweeting. That movie has to be seen with a group.
Yeah, like horror and comedy are the ones that I think are both the most improved by all being together. And like the bad movies. Get some people together at a safe distance and watch Artemis Fowl this weekend.
I don't think they're necessary to see as a group, but I think sports movies are all enhanced by a group. Rocky Balboa was still one of my favorite theatrical experiences because it was just like a bunch of dudes and then like divorced dads that drug their kids to the movies on their weekend or whatever. And just it's like Rocky fighting a computer simulation and men were crying and high-fiving strangers. So that was great. And I just got to imagine that seeing the Mighty Ducks with like a group of people.
Just a lot of quacking.
Who are just very into those ducks and very into the quacking. Would be
weirdly,
fun. Jonathan, release the quacking.
Release the Kraken.
It was good.
That's great. Weirdly, one that I did see in a group that was better than you could ever imagine was Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. It was actually really fun to watch in a group. Not the TV movie. It was really good to watch in a group. I don't know why, but it was a really enjoyable experience.
Into it.
The best group, I think for me it was Bruno in theaters was probably my favorite movie to watch in a big group because you would just see different moments send different people out of the theater, leaving. Like when his little pee hole went Bruno, the older couple next to me just went ugh, and then both walked out.
They were done,
which only added to the comedy.
They were done. Did you stay in the theater after the pee hole, or did you walk out?
I was dying. There's no way my mom was going to drag me out of that theater or whoever. I don't remember.
Just like
what year was Bruno? Yeah.
Absolutely wedged in. I think that's a good place to end the show. The other channel I was trying to remember is Maggie Mayfishes, who's been on here. She did an Animal Crossing essay for us. Her deep dive on cats is crazy, and she's dressed as a cat, and you should definitely watch that. Hey, I hope you two enjoyed doing this show as much as I enjoyed doing this show.
Always, Joe.
B-holes, P-holes, and M-holes, man. What a day.
What it's all about, you guys.
What a day.
Fix that slug's mouth. We'll see you guys tomorrow.